Hello and welcome to the Climate Neutral and Smart Cities Mission Kick-Off event, hosted by the European Commission and the mission manager, NetZeroCities. We are here today to start a journey. It's a journey that's unprecedented. It's a journey that might be tough. It's a journey not only to climate neutrality, but to climate neutrality by 2030. That's 8 more years. And you are the first 100 cities who committed to this goal. One might even say you are the chosen ones, because there were 377 applications. You represent 12% of the European Union population. And leading by your example, you will also inspire other European cities so that hopefully by 2050, all other European cities will be climate neutral. And on this journey, you will not be alone. And this is the reason why we're here today. We're here today so you get to know each other, the other cities, the other practitioners. And we're also here today so you get to know NetZeroCities, the platform manager who's going to support all of you in reaching this goal. Today we're here to fill this vision and this idea with life and with faces. The faces of the people who are going to accompany you on this journey. And we really want to feel this vision when we look into each other's eyes, which might be something that we weren't able to do so far. So that together, hopefully today, we will leave with the feeling that this big vision of ours might be unprecedented. It might be tough, but it's definitely possible. And with this, I welcome you. My name is Katrina. I'm very pleased to be your host here today. And I really want to remind you that this event is for you. So I also invite you to just arrive here in this beautiful setting today. Is there anyone who's having this experience that this is the first in-person event this year? Anyone? Like, no? Yeah, still a few shy hands. Like, we also welcome you. I know it's like something we still have to get used to again. We are actually 3D here. We don't have to unmute ourselves before we talk. We can laugh and then we can hear each other. We can look around at each other's faces and actually smile and see new faces that we want to get to know or see old colleagues that we might already know. If you want to talk and post about what's happening here today, please feel free to do so with these hashtags, hashtag Mission Cities, hashtag EU Missions, and hashtag Horizon EU. And with this, I think it's really interesting to get a better understanding of who is here in this room today, because I already saw a lot of you on stage here for the picture we took, and I already felt the energy when you saw the names of the cities on screen. So let's have a look of who you actually are. And also, we have an online audience, and I really want to welcome the online audience as well, and also see who they are. So my question to the online audience would be to go to a Slido that we have prepared for you, and tell us which city are you joining in from today, so we also get an understanding of the international connections that we also have in the online world. And I'll leave the online audience to answer this question now. For you here, you don't have to go on Slido. I'd rather talk to you here in person. So let's have a look. Maybe we get a bit of light in the room as well. I'm curious to see, where are you all from? I understand we've got a lot of cities represented here today, so maybe let's just get a bit of an understanding. Where are the northern cities who would kind of call themselves the northerners? And please, I want a bit of light if that's possible. It's probably not possible. Okay, well then turn around, okay? What are the, like which cities? Give me a few city names here. Love it. can hardly understand any, but I'm sure your neighbors can understand, so that's good to know. There's like, oh, there's this guy from Oslo sitting next to me. Okay, good to know. Where are the Easterners who would call themselves Eastern cities? Okay, and give me some names here. Cluj. Okay. Soviet. There we go. Okay. I'm not even trying to repeat that. Where are the Southerners? It's like, yeah. All right. Okay. We don't want to put any cliches here, but did you get that? Okay. What are the cities? Athens. What else? Oh. Okay. Okay, I'll just lead that to you to make a decision. You know, the energy from the Southerners. Where are the Westerners? Like, yeah, a bit more civilized here. Okay. Give me some names. Mannheim, okay. It's like, yes. And who would kind of say, I'm more central, I'm more in the middle, somehow balanced, not like the Southerners, but also not as like this? Yeah, very politely raising your hands. The central ones, okay, what have we got here? Gran? Ljubljana? Frankfurt? Okay. Yeah. Good. I mean, at least you got a bit of an impression of where your neighbors are from. And I understand most of you are working for or in a city, correct? Anyone who's not working for or in a city? Yes, okay, there's also people who are doing different things. That's good. We need diversity, yes. For the ones who are like working with cities, like how long have you been doing this? Are you a bit of a newbie, so you haven't even seen your colleagues in real life yet, so like 1 or 2 years? Anyone here? It's like, no, we don't even have interns. Okay. All right, anyone who's been doing this for like 4 or 5 years, kind of solid, part of the group, lots of Christmas cards from your colleagues, seen some developments in the city? Okay, good. Oof, you're like, yeah, I've been doing this all my life. 15 years, like the really, like, or 10 to 15? Okay, good. Or like somewhere in between. Okay, and anyone who's like, okay, I've been working for a city all my life, I can't even remember a time. Whoa. Yay. I understand we've got lots of expertise here in the room, which I think is necessary and good. So now let's have a look at the sentiment that we've got. We've got a big goal here. We want to reach climate neutrality in our cities by 2030. How optimistic are you about this? Maybe give me like when you raise your hand from here to here, okay? So here is more this, yeah, I'm more the type who wants to be surprised, but I'd rather expect the worst. Is that here? And then in the middle is this kind of, I do believe in it, you know, there's some challenges, but you know, some hurdles, 50-50, maybe the chances. And then here are the people, I'm not even an optimist, I'm just a realist because I believe we can do this. Show me your hands. Yay! Good. I think this is a good feeling to get today started. And with this, it is my great pleasure to introduce our keynote message. Frans Timmermans, the Vice President of the European Commission, has sent us a little video. Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations on today's kickoff for all cities participating in this mission to get 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. It's great to see that there are 112 cities present today. You are a truly inspiring group, leading the way on climate action from Aarhus to Zagreb and Amsterdam to Zaragoza. I'm especially impressed by your pledge to be climate neutral by 2030. It'll be a massive challenge, but as you will master it, you will bring about massive change. Think about it. You represent 12% of the EU population from every member state in the EU. If you add the 12 associated country cities, that's 75 million people on an accelerated journey to climate neutrality. Cities are at the heart of our fight against the climate crisis. Greening urban spaces, tackling air pollution, reducing energy consumption in buildings, advancing clean transport. There's so many ways that cities are the hub of the changes and innovation we need for this transition. We also need to ensure this is a just transition. You'll certainly have heard me say it before. It'll be just, or there will just not be a transition. It is why we have the Just Transition Fund and why we're helping the regions with a difficult transition draft the plans to make it happen. It is also why we want to use 25% of the revenues from emissions trading in buildings and transport for a social climate fund. This fund will enable vulnerable groups make clean and money-saving investments in rooftop solar, home insulation and electric driving. The city's mission is hugely important for the just transition in the Green Deal because it will demonstrate that a fair transition to climate neutrality is possible. Your lessons, being the trailblazers of this journey, will be vital. Here I should add that we have a lot more cities that applied and didn't get selected. The mission still plans to work with them, and I hope you will too. Now, of course, the context within which we implement these plans has changed drastically on the 24th of February of this year. Russia's barbaric war on Ukraine forces us to push further and faster on our green transition. The REPowerEU plan we launched last month will end our dependence on Russian fossil fuels. We will fast forward the clean energy transition and increase Europe's energy sovereignty by diversifying supplies, saving energy and, above all, ramping up the rollout of renewables. Energy savings offer enormous opportunity for quick gains. Just lowering the thermostat by 1 degree and not putting the air conditioning too cold can reduce our demand for gas and oil by 5%. What we do at home, but also in public buildings, matters a great deal. Cities play a major role in developing measures tailored to the local context. I encourage you all to look at the Cities Energy Saving Sprint campaign. It has lots of examples from cities across Europe. Consider also what you can do to put much more solar panels on rooftops. The potential there is huge. Climate negotiations are global. Our legislation is European. But the real changes to our surroundings will happen city by city, neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street. With the Covenant of Mayors, the European Climate Pact, and of course the Cities Mission, we will support you to make these changes happen. Getting to climate neutrality by 2050 and even 2030 will be hard, bloody hard, but we can do it. Your work begins today and you can count on our support. So let's get going. Let's show millions of citizens that a green, clean and healthy future is possible and that it's possible for everyone. But for now, thank you for your attention.
As Vice President Timmermans said, it's going to be bloody hard, but I get the feeling with the energy in this room, we are on a good path already. So with this, let me introduce to you Kirsten Dunlop. She's the CEO of EIT Climate Kick and leading the NetZeroCities consortium. Please give it up for Kirsten.
I am representing here to just make a few words of bridge between Vice President Timmermans and the work that you will be doing today, representing the consortia that sits at the heart of this initiative and representing therefore a consortia that is here to enable, to support and to serve. And that's really the point of what we are here to do, to meet you where we are, where you are, together, to enable the possibility of bringing to life the spirit of a mission, and to do so in time, to transform in time, so that your decision makers, your businesses, your citizens see that it's possible, believe that it's possible, and join you in making it possible. And I thought just to kick this off and bridge into the discussions that we will be having today around what does enablement and support and service look like, is to just take a moment to reflect on the usefulness of that concept called mission. What have we got to work with that idea? And there are a few things just to lay out for us before we begin, before we really embed into the gritty, difficult, but extraordinarily exciting reality of this. A mission is describing a gap between something we know we need, but at the same time, seems far away from what we understand to be possible. And knowing that, naming that, acknowledging that we're stepping into a space that is about trying to close the gap between what we need by 2030 and what we actually believe might be possible, that's the beginning of it all. A mission is about acknowledging that the hardest thing of all is to transform ourselves. The choices that Frans Timmermans was describing, those little choices every day, those bigger choices, those conversations around a dinner table, the decisions in boardrooms of small companies and big companies, they're not easy because they ask us to hold a long-term and a mid-term reality that still isn't right in front of us in favor of something that is not necessarily so very easy. A mission is about being able to acknowledge as well that we cannot do this alone with the power of our rational minds. We need hearts and imaginations engaged in what we are here to do together. And if we cannot unlock what it means to hope and dream for something that we can depict in every city, the uniqueness of what it will look like for your particular cities to change, then we struggle. With the dry, the rational, the science, we need to somehow bring this to life with imagination. And that's the power of a mission. And then, of course, you have posters everywhere talking about using the word systemic. The fact that we are now institutionally, formally, together, acknowledging that we need to work on decarbonization, on social change, on just transition, and on the realities of climate adaptation that we're going to have to live with in the next 10 years, in connected, holistic ways. That we do have a possibility of finding solutions and joining them together and making 1 + 1 = 5. That we actually can change the way in which we're combining things. And that's the point of this initiative, with a consortium here to bring art, science, technology, analytics, expertise in banking and finance, citizen engagement, in together with all of the experts you have in local and regional contexts, so that together we combine. And that leads me to the reflection that a mission is not just about what, it's also about how. Really, we are describing a space of deep, strong, solid, thoughtful collaboration, of bringing together departments and budgets and ministries and colleagues and those who don't normally come together around the same table over time to work in ways that are about bridging silos and sectors, where combinations happen because people begin to see the possibility and the glimpses of what it means to do that. And that, in a context of Europe at the moment, also means this connects up to other missions, and it connects up to the New European Bauhaus and the effort to make it beautiful and accessible and affordable and tap into that imagination. And the last thing I would really love to conclude with, as somebody who is here to serve you, who has been working in this space, not quite for my whole life, but it almost feels like it, but certainly working in the space of enabling innovation and remembering that these are R&I instruments, really trying to connect research and innovation to the reality of change on the ground. This is about discovery. There's no point in pretending that we really know exactly how to piece every piece of the puzzle together, pay for it together, reprocess it together. This is about innovating not just in the individual solutions in technology, waste, water, air, but the processes, the policies, the way we do things. And that every single inch, every single centimeter, every single iota of ground that we gain is something massive achieved. 2030 is a number we've told ourselves matters, and what matters about that number is not the number. What matters is that we try. And that in this space of possibility, every ground we gain, every inch, every heart, every person who comes to the table with a different spirit, that we do something together, is the triumph of what we are doing together. Because that power of imagination and the power of collective effort and the power of collaboration together, learning from one another, really does give us something that is a dynamic. It is a system of actions, and that has power in its own right, power laws. So, I believe this is the adventure of my lifetime. This is the story I know we will be telling ourselves for 1,000 years. Welcome. Thank you for having the courage to be here. Thank you for having the courage to commit and to put your name on a page and build a proposition that was convincing enough to be here. Bring others with you, and I look forward to being and seeing every single one of you and understanding the uniqueness of what you are each trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten Dunlop, for those truly encouraging words. And with this, I would say, let's start the discovery. And I would like to call on stage with me two people who are going to tell us a bit more about the mission journey. So the first step was basically for you to get selected, but we'd like to have a closer look of what happened until here and what's going to happen beyond. And for this, I welcome on stage with me Matthew Baldwin, who's the Deputy Director General for Energy at the European Commission, and Thomas Ostober, who's the Program Director of NetZeroCities, EIT Climate Kick. Please give it up for them. Are you ready for the adventure?
I feel like this is a trap that I got stuck in the middle here, but
You're in the middle of it.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, so Matthew, maybe we start with you telling us a bit about the background. You have been involved in this for quite a while. You've talked to a lot of cities before the mission launched and also since the mission launched. What are the key takeaways that you can take from there? What have you learned so far?
Well, the enthusiasm levels I experience in this room are not the first time I've felt them and heard them. Individually, collectively, all the different cities I've spoken to, and it's a lot over the last amazing year and a half, is what carries us forward. I mean, you just heard Kirsten, you captured that beautifully, Kirsten. I think this combination of enthusiasm and effort and energy, which this is about, it is constantly inspiring. I was in Glasgow. I met many of you in Glasgow, and I went there to try to sell this concept of this mission to cities. And I came back sort of feeling overwhelmed that there are so many cities out there in Europe and beyond that are determined to make these changes. And not just for this greenhouse gas story we have to tackle, but for the co-benefits that you're going to bring for your citizens. I came back thinking that we weren't being ambitious enough, that we should be setting 2030 as a standard across Europe, across the world, for every city. But anyway, I was shown that when so many cities came forward. And let's hear today also for so many of the cities, including many of you online, who are not selected, but I hope will be making this journey with us. You are every bit as important as the fantastic people in this room, and there is such commitment. Just talking already in the coffee, there are so many cities wanting to work with other cities to bring this forward. You learn best from each other. It's a terrible realization for me in the European Commission. You don't learn best from me or from the Commission. You learn best from each other. And from, I think you will find, this amazing consortium, which Kirsten and Thomas and you're representing here today. 33 different brilliant organizations representing the very best knowledge and experience, and you should draw on them, suck them dry with your questions and your determination to learn. Anyway, that's the things I picked up, and I should just say I wish I was making that journey with you. I should be watching from the side. I've been moved into another job unexpectedly at short notice. I should be watching with admiration, expectation, and passion from the side at you make these efforts.
So you basically started it off and let someone else do the job now.
Exactly. But I think I can say, I'm looking to colleagues for confirmation, I think I can say that my successor has now been chosen and will be showing up, very exciting, this afternoon to meet you all.
Please pass on your enthusiasm, Tim, as well.
He's got plenty.
That's good to know. You just said that you'd actually want every city to be part of this. So why is the mission actually restricted to 100 cities then?
Well, that's a very good question. In fact, when I saw the 377 cities, and Thomas, we talked about it a lot, I went straight back to the Commission and said, hey, give me another 300 million. And we can do it with more. And money doesn't grow on trees, and it's tight financially now. The message back was, prove that this works. Show us that this concept is real. Show us that the cities can and want to do this. and then we can move forward. So that's why I urge all the cities that were not selected to not feel rejected, to not feel they're not part of this journey, and to stay with the course. Tom, I'm sure you're going to explain all the different ways in which cities can join up to this mission, through twinning, through seminars, through deluges of information and shared experiences. And so, I mean, I wish we were doing it with more, but let's prove through this initial group that we can really make this adventure work.
You also spoke to the national governments, who are obviously supposed to support and empower the cities to be able to reach this goal. What are your observations there?
Well, today marks another important day in the sense that the Commission ceases to be in the front line and we hand on to NetZeroCities. No pressure, Tom, to take the core work of working with you all to make this happen in terms of the Climate City contracts. And you'll hear endless stuff about that today. So what's the Commission going to be doing? In the first instance, I think our responsibility is to help build those national and regional networks of support. So I've been speaking to, I've lost touch with how many, I think it's about 15 different member states, and I hope my successor is going to carry that torch forward and talk to them at senior level, at ministerial level, about how they can support the cities in this enterprise. And again, not just the cities we've chosen in the first 100, but the others as well. And I'm extraordinarily encouraged from Greece. Have you noticed how all the Greek cities in the front row? That's how pushy these guys are. From the Greek cities to the Spanish cities, the Swedish, in Austria, and yes, in Hungary and in Poland and in France. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting some places here. There is considerable understanding and recognition for what you're trying to do, not just in terms of research and innovation, but in terms of the contribution that you're making to the climate change effort, and considerable excitement in departments of transport and energy and so on. So I think it will work, but we've got to make sure the national governments accept their responsibilities, yes, and find some money too to help you. It's not all going to come from the Commission. And get your efforts underway, collaborate, build the momentum, it'll happen.
So you're saying kind of accepting the responsibility. Maybe I got to play a bit of devil's advocate here, but do you think all national governments are going to do that?
I don't know. I mean, they're going to do it in different ways. And that's also, I mean, diversity is cool. I mean, the way the Portuguese and the Greeks and others are already thinking is different. The French are doing a full groupe miroir to mirror the efforts at the European level. The Austrians launched last week their national mission for climate neutrality. So there's lots of different ways. I can't commit for the national governments, but we should be encouraging to do everything they can. And why? Because they've committed themselves in the binding climate law to reduce their climate gas emissions by 55% by 2030. You guys are going to be carrying them on their backs, so they should help you out with this huge task.
Thank you so much, Matthew, for this first overview. Since you already said you're not putting any pressure on Thomas, let's see how he feels about that.
Thomas Osterbar, ladies and gentlemen.
So Thomas, NetZeroCities is the mission platform to support the cities. You've got lots of diverse cities and you've got a very big goal. So maybe you can tell us a bit more how NetZeroCities is actually aiming to do this. How do you operate?
Nothing like the simple question right out of the gate. Well, I think there are probably three things to start with in that regard. I think one is, and Kirsten referenced this all starts with where the cities are now. It doesn't start with some abstract notion of do these 5 things. It's where are you now? How do you understand the situation that you're in? What are the barriers, the challenges? What do you need support with? But it will go farther than that. And as part of the mission, the Commission has asked us to use a few tools and techniques to try to explore what's possible. And so we've drawn inspiration from a group of cities that started working together 4 years ago now in Sweden to develop a tool called Climate City Contracts. And that is now spread to Spain, and they've been using it, and it's now part officially of the mission. And all cities participating in this mission will be using the Climate City Contract as a tool, as an instrument to help them move towards this journey, towards this objective of 2030 climate neutrality. It's early in the life of Climate City contracts. I expect there to be great diversity in how different cities and different countries use Climate City contracts, and that's actually the point. It's not to follow what Sweden's done or follow what Spain has done to draw upon what Sweden has done. It's to make it work for each city in its own context. And our job is to help do that with a variety of tools and techniques and experts. I think 33 organizations, many of them are here. You'll get a chance to meet them over the course of the day, bringing together experience, knowledge, expertise from city network organizations, leading practitioners and innovators in the space, people with finance expertise and capital planning expertise, all at service of the cities as they're using these tools to go further. There'll be a little bit more conversation from Marina and Olga talking about Climate City contracts. There's going to be a deeper dive coming later this month around that as we roll this forward. So that's one example. I think one other thing I'd say, just for brevity at this point, is we recognize the economic effort that this is going to take. It's going to take mobilizing massive amounts of resources. But we also know, because we've developed tools to help analyze what the economic case is for a city or a national government to make those investments. Not all of those investments will provide a positive return on investment, but many will. But what we do know is there's a huge amount of capital that is interested in the problem, is eager to invest in effective solutions and deployment, but it's not going to get there by itself. We need to learn how to go after it. We need to shape the markets so that it's compelling, and we need to use public resources smartly with private capital together. There's going to be a lot of conversation around this, but it's critical that we support all the cities with the analytical capability to look at the economic case for decarbonization, how much capital will be needed for what purpose, what kind of capital is necessary. Otherwise, we're sort of flying blind in that regard, and so that's one of the pieces we need to bring to bear as well. You know, we'll be launching pilots and working with cities on piloting innovation activities that bring something new to the process. So, as Kirsten noted, discovering how to do this. I think we're all pretty clear what needs to be done. It's about how do we do it in the time that we have and the way that we're being asked as part of the mission.
So you mentioned the pilot projects and the Climate City contracts, and you say it yourself, it's quite an economic effort. What else do cities, what should they look out for? Anything else in that regard?
Well, much of what we offer will come through this, it's called Mission Platform. NetZeroCities is building and mobilizing and scaling literally by the day. And that platform will be access to all of the resources and tools that exist. It will be an interface for us to engage with cities collectively and individually to understand what their specific needs are, and to some degree to be demand responsive, but it's deeper than that. We need to build relationships so we can ask hard questions of the cities. They can ask us very difficult questions, and we problem solve together. That collaboration will be critical to that. And so we have people who are coming on just to help with those relationships, to help the cities access all that we can bring, and do so in a way that's aligned with the mission objectives. You know, we can't pretend this isn't going to be extraordinarily difficult. But we do also, with that, have to recognize that diversity here, 112 different cities, that's our friend. There's no one way to do this, and we'll learn together. We know cities learn from each other. They talk. You've been desperate to talk to each other. Today's the day to start talking to each other about this. Learn together. We're here to help that process, and we're here to help stretch into the difficult conversations, the difficult experiments that we need to take on, and be people who can show up with you to your mayor and city council and have very frank conversations about what is it going to take to achieve this. Because if we're not prepared to do that, we're going to really struggle to be successful with the mission.
So you're talking about kind of honest conversations and hard questions. Quite often the hard questions are also about budget. So looking at the process that was there to develop this mission, there was a general estimate that was used that an average European city of 100,000 population would need 1 billion euros for this mission. And now in the budget for the entire mission for the span 2021 to 2023, you've got 360 million, if I understand correctly. How does that go together? How realistic is it?
I guess that question's for me, is it, unfortunately? Yeah, all the money questions come to me. Look, I mean, as Tom said, we do not want to underestimate the financial challenge of this and the challenge facing cities. But we are your partners in that, and the consortium are your partners, and we are your partners. But to take that sum you just mentioned, Katharina, 1 billion euros for an average city or 100,000, all the money in the EU budget, all the money in national budgets, if somehow we could tap into it, and boy, I'd love to, would not be enough to meet those needs. I think all of you know we're going to have to find a way to tap in effectively to private finance. And that's why this contracting process is so important. The action plan on what you're going to do in climate terms by 2030, the related financial plan, and of course the contract itself, the commitment vis-a-vis your citizens. Putting those together, the Commission then envisage authorizing, validating, approving, we'll have to find the right verb, those climate city contracts to give you the mission label, and that will be the way we pull in the private finance. It sounds quite a strange mechanism, but all the financial experts that I've spoken to, including the ones you've lined up, Thomas, this is a very effective way to work. It'll also help us, I mean, from this moment, I hope you will be getting improved access to structural funds. Everyone is very aware now what you're doing, to the next iterations of the recovery and resilience funds. We will be inside the Commission making that case for you. Money from the Connecting Europe facility, we'll be making all of those cases with you for specific projects, working with the European Investment Bank and the national promotional banks to help you achieve these things. But it's a joint effort. There's no magical money tree. I haven't brought my wallet this morning. We've never pretended to be a cash machine. But I am convinced if we get the plans right and we build the momentum for this mission, the money will be available. Ultimately, we'll be able to overcome that constraint. But it's going to be a tough struggle. Tom, do you want to?
Well, I think that's right. And it is going to take a diverse set of sources coming together. And my philosophy on that is that private capital is quite interested, and some of it is actually well suited to what we need to do. But the pathway to getting that money into our cities to make the investments that we need in our action plans is not, it's not a one-way street. And I think the private capital partnerships we need to build have to be built on a recognition that they're going to need, and I say this us collectively, they're going to need us to go get it. And I'll just give you a great example. This was a number of years ago before this process started. But I was talking to a single investor who had $100 million, and this was in the U.S. context, $100 million. They were willing to invest at 1% to 2% for 20 years to completely renovate social housing. And they wanted a pipeline in which they could invest that. And the pipeline didn't exist. And I had a long exchange with them about what does it take to build a pipeline of that scope and scale that your capital could be deployed in. And ultimately, it was very clear that's not something that they know how to do, are going to learn how to do, or are even motivated to do. But they're willing to put that money forward for that purpose. The terms may have changed slightly, but I think that's still generally true. What we need to do, and cities collectively, along with their national governments, is figure out how to create those pipelines, how to create portfolios that can command that kind of resource. And it will come, and that's why we have experts here to help with that process. We know it's not easy, it's very difficult, but we know it also can be done. In a project like that, if you simply internalized the equivalent of a voluntary offset inside a pricing mechanism, you would have more than enough public capital to leverage that private capital. The question is, are we prepared to do that, and are we prepared to put forward policies to create 100 million in projects?
You can see this guy really knows what he's talking about, and I think I'm right in saying, Tom, that you'll have not just city advisors, a named person that you all can call, but you'll have, I hope in the future, city financial advisors. People, you know, who will understand more, 15,000 times more than I will never know about this stuff. You'll be able to call and say, what's your advice on this? How do we shape this thing? So that's why this platform is going to be so vital. Sorry.
The whole thing sounds like a big endeavor that will involve a lot of different stakeholders from a lot of different backgrounds, levels, governmental levels as well. What do you think are the chances here, and what are the risks in such a multi-stakeholder process?
Do you want to go first, Tom? I mean, okay, just really quickly, I mean, the word transformation is a big word, but I think it's an appropriate word in this context. And all levels of government and all stakeholders are going to have to transform the way of it they work with you. I think my personal view is the Commission is on a journey itself to transform. I mean, this mission is cross-cutting across many different departments within the Commission, and that's one of the most exciting things to me. You're all here working with a great and diverse group of colleagues. We can see the national government starting to react and to change. And of course, I modestly, humbly suggest to you, you all may need to change a bit the way you govern, tackling this objective. And there are plenty of good examples already amongst you who've started to think about your governance. Then these governance levels have to interact well with the regions. We have folks here from the Committee of the Regions who are tremendously supportive of this mission. And then stakeholder groups and how they work, and the banking community is going to have to learn. So it's the start of a journey. And it's the start of a journey in governance, which isn't a glamorous thing to talk about, but it's starting to happen before our eyes, including in my own house, I'm very happy to say.
Mm-hmm. I think just to add to that, you know, I've heard over the last several months from a number of cities who feel pretty confident on the pathway that they've identified. You know, we haven't even begun to work together, but they're like, I think we can get there. We know what to do. We're going to need help figuring out how to do that, but we think we know what to do to get there. And I think that's quite encouraging. And the other thing maybe that's the most encouraging and is happening much faster than I would have guessed is the discussions around national governments helping to create these national platforms. We've talked about this for years. For this to really work, it's both pan-European, but it's also, to use a term from physics, fractalized at a national level. And we do everything we're doing at the mission pan-European within each national context, because it takes that level of precision within each member state's policy structures, the way multi-level government work, and resources. And that's happening very quickly. You know, Sweden has a network, Spain now has a network, and they came together in different ways, which is encouraging, right? But even in the last month, active conversations in more than a handful of different countries across Europe saying, how do we build a national platform to support this? And what's equally good about it is it's not just the cities that got selected, right? Spain had 22 cities submit EOIs, 7 got selected, and they're like, we need to support them all, right? The Netherlands is saying the same thing, the French government the same thing. We're hearing that again and again and again. That's really encouraging, because ultimately that takes some of the burden off of Europe to try to figure out how to get out of the way, and also take away some barriers at the European level and give more when it's really difficult. But at the national level with the cities together, there's a different opportunity. That requires us as NetZeroCities to be able to accommodate that and not, you know, try to continue to hold on to one size fits all. We need to be very adaptive. We need to recognize however we start, it's going to be a little wrong. Hopefully it's not very wrong, but a little wrong, and we need to adjust course based on what happens. And you know, that's the most, to me, you know, the most exciting thing is we're learning very quickly already how we need to adjust to take this forward.
Just if I may, all the cities that are here and all the cities that are online, work together to put pressure, please, on your regional governments, on your national governments to build exactly that platform, Tom. It's not going to happen spontaneously. It's not going to happen because you know, everyone's busy. So put the pressure on them, as we are putting pressure on them, please, to deliver these platforms. They will be essential to our work.
Matthew, you just called this a big transformation. And I really like what Kirsten said before, that we have to transform ourselves. Personally, how do you think you have maybe transformed already on this journey, or what do you think we really need to transform about ourselves?
Oh la la.
I'm 10 years older than I was a year ago.
There you go. I think that's right. Well, let me just say, I think it's really, really important, but it's really hard to do that from the Commission, because what I call this, the long wagging finger of the Commission saying, listen up, people, do this, change your lives. We do need to change, and we need to change what we do in the Commission, in our everyday lives, and that's absolutely clear, and it's going to be a big part of that future. But I think, if I may, it's easier for you as people in the cities and the mayors to talk about shaping your own environments. So you're not going to hear from me sort of lectures about cycling or eating less meat. I don't think that works. What is clearly happening is that people are doing that, and they're doing that for themselves, for their communities, for their streets, and that is so inspiring.
So without kind of raising the finger, but still you've got all these city representatives right in front of you, and I understand the two of you are going to be quite popular at the buffet later, but maybe if you do want to kind of give an advice to the city representatives now, how to approach the mission, what would be your advice?
Well, I'll say three things. And one of my lessons in life is when you're thinking when you're thinking quickly how to respond, say, I've got three things, because you can
French way.
plan it all out. But I think first and foremost, get together within your city government and your elected leaders and be brutally honest about where you are. So that you're in a position to see with clear eyes what help you need, what challenges you face, etc. That's the first step in this journey. I think the second is don't carry all the weight for this process. I worked in my first job in city government in 1987. Long time. I've been working with cities a long time. Don't carry all of that weight yourselves. There are people inside and outside city government. There are people at higher levels of government, people in civil society that will help if you let them. Don't try to do it all yourself. And we don't often get rewarded. I'm speaking to peers inside city government. You don't always get rewarded for doing that inside city government, right? But it's the right thing to do in this case. And we'll do everything we can to support you with that. And then the third thing is, we're going to see barriers. You're going to see big numbers. It's going to feel hard, and it is hard. But be open to new ways of tackling difficult challenges. People who've been working in the space of building energy use have been beating their heads against the wall. Why isn't building renovation happening faster? It makes economic sense. It's good for indoor air quality and occupant health. There's so many good reasons. There's an economic case for it. Why isn't it happening? Open ourselves up to different ways of thinking about that. We've been trying to make that building owner's responsibility. I'm not sure that's necessarily the right answer, at least not in here's information, here's incentives, you go do the work. I'm not sure that's going to get us there. I think we need to open ourselves up to different ways of tackling well-understood problems. I think people want to see action. They don't necessarily want us to tell them everything that they need to do or that they need to let us they just need to have confidence that we're tackling the problem with seriousness, and they'll put up with some inconvenience along the way.
Thank you.
Well, that gave me time to think of my 3 points. Thank you, Tom. The first is, see these climate city contracts as a helpful process, as a tool to help you achieve great things. If you're feeling they're a bureaucratic obstacle, we're doing it wrong. So tell us. It shouldn't be a bureaucratic obstacle. It should help you get there. And I totally agree with Tom when he said it's about diversity of approach and not telling you to redo everything you've already done. I mean, there's lots of scope for building on what you've done. So don't kind of go, oh, God, the first thing we have to do is something completely new and different. It is a helpful tool. The second is a point I've made already, but I want to stress it again. Keep putting what I call helpful pressure on us and the national level, and of course on the consortium, to help you deliver. Don't be shy. Use our political level. Many of you and your mayors have direct access to the commissioners. Tell them what you need and how it's going. And the third thing is, and this is the most important thing, is stick together. A much overused but a beautiful European word, solidarity between the cities. We have, I think, now established a network. We need to establish a movement. And you are the core of that. You can reach out to all the folks online who want to be part of that, and you can build something together. If you turn this from a network into a movement, we can transform, we can achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this point, I would direct my gaze into the audience just to see if there might possibly be one or two very brief questions that we could try
Comments
to
or cries
squeeze
of
in.
pain and anguish.
Or comments, you're invited.
Back is killing me.
Any hands up in the air there? Trying to look to the very back.
Yes,
Anyone
there's-
want
I
one
do
out
see
there?
a hand
Yeah.
over there, yes.
So I know you're not Greek because you're sitting in the back.
Exactly. Just tell us your name and which city you're from, maybe.
Hi, Trevor Graham from Malmo. And we've had some brief discussions previously about the whole finance issue. And one of the question marks I have around access to capital is that to some extent it's maybe not the city's investments that are the big challenge, it's making affordable capital available at premium rates to our local partners in the business community. And have you thought about how the Climate City contract could enable smaller property investors, property companies, for example, to be part of a larger bundle of investment packages, which could then enable them to go further than they would otherwise be able to do in the business as usual financing market that they've got at the moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. The short answer is we sure have, in the sense we've started to consider how to do that. And I think there's 2 points to that. As part of the Climate City contracting process, you're going to hear briefly, there is an element of developing a capital and investment plan. It's assess what your capital needs are and begin to design the structures that you will need in order for it to work. So that gets right to that point, right? And then there's also pieces around the policy enabling environment to make that actually flow effectively, to build effective pipelines. But the other thing we're working on is trying to create a capital facility that brings diverse sets of private capital to one place so it can be deployed in service of the mission cities rather than each city having to sort of broker that on its own. Because that just sounds exhausting, but it's also not feasible to get the kind of capital that we need. So we're working on it in a few ways, and we'll get into this in great detail in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you. And I see another hand over there. And I see
getting
we
the
don't
hook.
have any more time.
One more, really brief, really brief.
Really brief. There we go. We do have time. So
Short
please
questions,
make
short
it very
answers,
short.
guaranteed.
Isn't it?
Yep.
It is working. My name is Evelina from Gävle in Sweden. I would say the biggest problem is not money in our case, but it's the rules you need to set on European level. To make a circular economy, we need a lot of rules so that our consumption-based emissions can reduce, and we cannot set those rules on a local level. So that is a big task for you, how to get all those rules in place so that all the companies can start and use materials in a different way than we do today. And also, you need to talk about acceptance for things, because the lack of political acceptance and also from citizens is also big trouble at our place for biking or other stuff. So, I mean, we're too rich in our part of the world. That's why we can destroy this planet because of that. So it's not the lack of money, it's also the excess of money, I would say, that is a problem. Thank you.
Well, let me go. I think I just heard Swedish cities promising to fund other people's missions. No, that was a joke.
As he
Seriously,
runs out the door.
as I walk out the door, you make a great point, not just on the circular economy. There will be regulations which stop you doing what you need to do at regional level, at national level, and at European level. Let us all know, and let the platform know what is impeding you, whether it's on the circular economy, whether it's on procurement rules. There are lots of different ways we can enable things, and we can also, if we get it wrong, we can prevent things. And our goal, I think, and that's a second vital task for the Commission as we go forward, is being the force, I hope, the powerful force within the European institutions to help you knock down those barriers together. We don't have a magic wand. I remember saying to the mayor of Heidelberg, I wish I had a magic wand to sort of transform everything, but we will do our best. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And with this, since I heard we don't have much more time left, I would like to round it up still with one very brief question. Since I asked our audience how optimistic they are about this big goal, I also want to ask you, how optimistic are you? I saw you there in the first row. Thomas?
I am very up. My back is killing me. I'm sorry. I'm very.
I thought you're also going for this.
Yeah,
now.
I can't raise my arms. I'm very optimistic that a great number of cities will achieve by 2030, but that the bigger trajectory that we need to create for all cities will be started here through this process. And I think we need to start without fear of failing by 2030. Every city needs to say we're committed to it, but we're not afraid of not getting there, because otherwise you're not going to try. And that would be the biggest failure. So I'm optimistic that that's not going to happen.
Thank you so much. Please give it up for Matthew and Thomas. Thank you so much. Woo! This is a type of energy I want to see on this stage. Thank you so much. And with this, we're going to continue with more information on a tool that has been mentioned already. The European Commission will invite you, the 100 selected cities, to develop climate city contracts, which will be an overall plan on how to reach climate neutrality and also include investment plans. This process will involve citizens, research organizations, and the private sector. So we really do want to get a better understanding of what those climate city contracts are and also what we can learn from cities in Sweden that were amongst the first one to go with this approach. And for this, I already welcome with me on stage Marina Littek. She's a climate neutral cities governance and social innovation at ICLEI, at Local Governments for Sustainability, and Olga Korash. She's the director for Viable Cities and associate professor at the KTH Royal Institute of Technologies. Please, a round of applause.
And good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So my name is Marina, and I've been Marina Littek. I've been involved in climate work for about 20 years. So I'm very, very pleased to be here at this kind of beginning of this adventure together with you all. And yes, it's myself and Olga. And well, I'm very pleased to be here because you have responded to the call, especially, I would say, of the young people. Over the last few years, they've really raised the alarm on the urgency of tackling the climate emergency. And there's a lot of things going on in the world today, but you've decided to prioritize climate change in your cities. So you're really responding to this call today. And kind of leading back to what Kirsten was saying earlier, I guess the first starting point is really this mission mindset, which really applies to the Climate City contract as well. So the idea is that to have, we've set a really bold and ambitious target, and the way you're going to reach this is through new ways of thinking, new ways of working. But it's also, you've kind of put yourself out there, you set what you're going to achieve, so you're going to be accountable. And your work will need to be measurable, concrete, and transparent. So you're kind of inviting everyone to follow your journey. And it's interconnected. As the others have mentioned, this is all about kind of making the most of the networks within your city, of the networks between cities, so the networks between yourselves, and also kind of reaching out to the national level and the EU level. So yes, congratulations for coming on this journey. And how will this journey look like? It will be partly shaped by you. So we're putting together some signposts along the way, but it will be mostly kind of shaped by you as well. But there's going to be kind of three core interlinked elements. One is the kind of Mission Cities core contract, which are the commitments. So these are concrete commitments that your city is putting forward, but we also encourage you, as if you said before, to bring in stakeholders in your city to the table and bring forward concrete commitments to the common goal of climate neutrality. And then this will be backed up by some concrete plans. You all already have action plans, but these need to be kind of step up to the challenge of the 2030 target. And they will be backed up by investment plans. And so kind of the first few steps will be looking, kind of taking stock of where you are, knowing where your gaps are, and finding strategies, finding strategies to fill those gaps. And as I think Matthew mentioned, there is also the mission label, which will be kind of a verification system, looking at your action and investment plans, kind of ensuring that quality standards are met, and this will help unlock further funding opportunities. And you'll hear more detail about this hopefully very soon. So how are we going to get there? So I'll be really honest, we have an overall map at the moment, but the detail, the detail will come as the journey progresses. So you're also constructing this map for all the cities that are coming after you. But in one way to kind of look at this is we're going to kind of use kind of a governance, see as the Climate City contract process as a governance innovation tool. So it's about new ways of working together, starting with building a strong mandate, so building the political space in your city, bringing in the right people and the right actors, really understanding your system. Have you really mapped out all the people that you could involve in your city? Ranging from major emitters in your city to small community groups. So you probably have already done this, but it might be worth doing this again with this new perspective for the 2030 target. Our kind of journeys will be iterative. That means that we may have a kind of initial version very quickly. I was speaking to the city of Lyon today, and a few other cities, very ambitious, want to get this done, by the end of the year. So there may be a way of kind of fast-tracking this process, but then over the years, as you bring more stakeholders on board, as the reality around us changes, this process will need to be reviewed. Yeah? So it will be iterative, a real live document, basically. The result of this process. And they'll be non-linear because, when we look at this map, you'll be kind of, certain steps and certain phases you will already have achieved, and you may want to focus on specific elements of the phases. But the whole idea is the core of it, you'll see, is around developing the local ecosystem, so activating what's already there, and also being guided by the citizens, as quite a few of you already mentioned, the challenge of bringing everyone along with you. And as Frans Timmermans said, the transition will not happen if it's not a just transition. So bringing everyone along the way will be a really core element of this journey. And we are very lucky to have experts in citizen engagement as part of the consortium. So we'll be tapping into their knowledge for that. And what will the results of the process be? So it's a process. The Climate City contract is a process, but will also result in a series of documents. So commitment document, the climate mission plans on actions and investments. And I won't go into detail now, but on the week of the 20th of June, we're having an online session where we can explore these in more detail. And then finally, more importantly, what will the result of this process be? We hope a happy, just, healthy, and climate-neutral city. And a city that's fit for the children of the future, but also for the children of today. Because at the end of the day, it's about creating more livable and healthy spaces for all of us today as well. So I'll pass over to Olga Cordes, who is the Director of Viable Cities. And as was mentioned earlier today, Viable Cities has prototyped the Climate City contract process and approach in Sweden, and also work jointly with Spanish cities, and they have a lot of good lessons for us.
Thank you. Should I do something with my mic? Does it work now? Does it now?
Oh, yes.
Yes? Oh,
Yeah.
super. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Marina. I'm so happy to share experiences from Sweden and the Bible cities with you. Swedish cities, and many of them, and of course all of them who are presented today, have very long experience of working with climate targets and sustainability targets. So definitely today is not the day that when they start the journey, and I think that it's not for you either, but it's very important milestone we have today. So cities working with climate targets are still feeling that the great urgency and the massive scope of change which is necessary. We do understand, and all cities understand, that with the business as usual methods, we cannot achieve climate neutrality by 2030. So we need to have systemic transformation, and we need to test and pilot and implement new methods, approaches, and tools for that. And we do believe that climate city contracts is one of these methods. So if you taste the word contract or climate city contract, what do you feel? If you are the same as me, you would probably think, oh, boring. Something led by lawyers who would tell you what not to do. And also, it's something rigid. It's a document you sign and you forget somewhere. So, and then also doing you think, okay, would it work really? Is it something that would help us? Or it's just like one more boring thing that we will do and forget about? So I have some good news for you. In Sweden, with Viable Cities, we co-created the national level climate city contract, and our cities found this instrument and this process as useful, not boring, creative, helping cities and their actors to mobilize resources, mobilize different actors to accelerate transition to climate neutrality. So that's a good news. So in Sweden, we're working with 23 cities, representing 40% of Swedish population, with a mission of climate neutral cities by 2030, with good life for all within planetary boundaries. So we're connecting clearly the climate targets and also other sustainable development goals. So already 2018, we started with the first call and with first 9 cities who were ready to take a lead to accelerate the transition. And 2020, at the beginning of the year, when we've heard that Mission Board of Climate Neutral Cities suggested climate city contract as one of the important instruments as a backbone for transition to climate neutrality, we decided not to wait until Commission would develop the tool. So we decided with those 9 cities to co-create the climate city contract on the national level, which would be suitable for our cities and for our purposes. So we did it within 1 year with these 9 cities and also governmental agencies of Sweden. We created climate city contract and we signed it within 1 year. Doing that, we created also demand by other cities saying, okay, we also want to be a part of this journey. We want to do the same. And this is the best proof that cities found the instrument important and useful, because otherwise, why would they join? So from 9 cities, we scale up to 23 from 2021. And we are very happy that of those cities, 7 are part of the mission. So Swedish cities, where you are? Yeah. So grab those guys if you want to know more how they work. So we have a lot of experiences. So we do realize that climate city contracts should be adapted to the needs of the cities. So city needs are most important. And then they should be adapted to different contexts of cities and contexts of different member states. However, we will bring with us a lot of learnings to NetZeroCity Consortium and to you. And one important learning or added value is that climate city contract in Sweden became the kind of tool and process for the long-term strategy development in order to accelerate climate transition. Another one is that the platform, so the whole process would also lead to more possibilities for citizen engagement, but also feeling of transparency and accountability towards the citizens. It also helped many of our cities to mobilize actors from different sectors, and also from the businesses, from civil society organizations, from the universities, and we also want to see the same on the local, national, and European level. Of course, in Sweden, within this national context, so we brought together the local level actors, municipalities, and also national authorities. So we have commitments from the municipalities signed by mayors, and also commitments from the national government, represented by national authorities of Sweden. And the national level would support cities with better regulations, better access to innovation, and also more coordinated funding. So also when we created a climate city contract, as Marina, you mentioned, so this is not something rigid made once, but it's a process. So our contracts are revised every year when cities could revise their commitments, but also the national agencies could and authorities think, okay, how can we support cities better? So it's a big learning process and also process to create portfolio of experimentations, implementations, and actions instead of fragmented action. So all of you, all Swedish cities and cities in Europe, doing a lot of things, but they are not interconnected always. And then we don't have much learning platforms, learning from those different efforts inside one cities and also between cities. We also want to see in Sweden accelerating learning between cities. So each city has something great to share and something great to learn from others. So what we see, and climate city contracts show to be also a framework within which it's easier to learn between cities and between different actors. So you see here just two quotes from our mayors, also from Malmö and Umeå, was presented here, who designed and participated in co-creation of climate cities and of course signed climate city contracts. What they basically say is that this multi-level governance structure is getting stronger with climate city contract, and climate city contract provides backbones to align strategies on local level and also on the national level. And we hope to see the same also on European level. So it helps mobilize local actors, but also national actors. And also, as a mayor, Hans Lindberg from Umeå kommun, is a municipality saying, is that it also helps city learning between different cities. So, and I have another good news to you, because like in the early days of climate city contract development, I've heard so many times that, Olga, you are doing something for those rich Swedish municipalities that have too much money or whatever. So helping others. So you are doing something in national context of Sweden. This would not fly in other countries. This would not scale up. And we are so happy that the approaches and methods to climate city contracting were scaled up and used by our great friends, Cities 2030, led also by our great friend Julio Lambreras, who was a member of the mission board in Spain. So now we have Spanish cities who also sign in Spain climate city contracts using the similar model as viable cities. Of course, it was adapted to the needs. So nobody can now say that, okay, this climate city contract ID is only suitable for northern part of, for Sweden or northern part of Europe. So you could see that this tool and process is useful for cities now in Sweden and in Spain, and many cities and national governments are approaching us, asking us advice, okay, how they could do this national level climate city contracts. So we are to work together to mobilize and to accelerate transition towards sustainable cities. We believe that climate city contract is a good tool. And I want to add something and reflect on something, Marina, you mentioned, that you are the change leaders. It's up to you to believe that it's boring tool. It's something that just like we do because it's required, or to co-create and design this tool to really help your transition. So I'm working in Sweden for 20 years now with sustainable city development issues, but I'm coming originally from Ukraine. Until February this year, I felt that we are working in viable cities with something which is very important to our children, to our grandchildren, and to the future of humanity. From February of this year, I believe that what we are doing and decarbonization of our city is something that could help my family in Ukraine and also my friends to survive today and tomorrow. So the sense of urgency of what we are doing in Europe is very different now. It's not something that is far behind, at least for me, but it's something which is important today. And also, I want us to think about consumption-based emissions. So just today, because of this crisis and this dramatic situation in Europe, we realized that probably we needed to work with our dependency on fossil fuels earlier. But think about the need of dematerialization of our economy. So should we need another crisis to see that our dependence on use of resources and materials would lead to another worsened crisis? So probably, even though that mission requires us working on the consumption-based emissions, maybe by 2030 or a little bit later on, maybe it's not time to wait, but please integrate consumption-based emission already now. So thank you very much. If you are interested to know more, we are very happy to share, both me, my colleagues, and also Swedish cities. And I'm looking forward to see all of you in many different workshops and meetings and gatherings. And together we can make a change. Thank you so much.
Can I have one more slide? Thank you. One more minute. Okay, we're out of time, but just very briefly to share with you some next steps, if that's okay. So we have an information station in the room at the end there on the Climate City contract. So come and see us there this afternoon. I think it's between 4 and 5, yes. The information stations. Yes, so come and see us. I've got a clipboard for all the questions that you may have. And so as I mentioned, the week of the 20th of June, there's a series of online conferences. There's one on the Climate City contract process. So there will be a bit more detail there and a chance to unpack the map that I shared with you, supported by some of our colleagues that are here today. And then next also there is, do go and speak to our colleagues that are representing the portal, because that will be a really excellent chance to connect to other change makers, so the other kind of city representatives online. So speak to them about that. And then there's going to be, over the summer, we're going to kind of populate the map I shared with you with resources and information and wayfinding tools. So there's going to be a full launch of these in September. So to really help support you kind of over the autumn with the beginning of the Climate City contract process. So thanks so much for your time today. I understand we have no time for questions, but come and see us later.
Thank you so much. Please make your way to the information stand. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Olga. And thank you so much for showing us that Climate City contracts really don't need to be boring, but rather a tool that you can fill with life. And with this, I'm moving on to another tool that we would like to introduce to you. And I think it's a key topic that a lot of you will be interested in, which is the call for pilot cities projects. And we have two representatives here with us who are the people behind the Pilot Cities program. And I would like you to welcome with me on stage Joanna Kiernicka-Alavena. She's the cities leader of EIT Climate Kick, and Will Wade. He's the designer and producer of innovation grant-making EIT Climate Kick. Hello, and good to have you with us.
Hello.
Thank you.
Who would like to start? Just tell us a bit more about the call for pilots. These should be on. Just continue talking.
I think it is. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Katerina. What do we do for the slides? Oh, they change. Okay, great. Well, I'm sorry. We were extremely excited today, and quite frankly, a little bit intimidated. It's the first time we are talking about the call for pilot cities to someone else than our colleagues from the NetZeroCities Consortium or the European Commission. We would like to start to unveil some details. We suppose you are very curious. Today we are sharing the timeline for the call for pilot cities. So what is going to happen next? After this conference, within the next couple of weeks, we are going to publish the Pilot Cities Guidebook, document that we hope is inspirational and will help you to have on hand and in one place all the thoughts you should refer to while framing your pilot activities. Together with the Pilot Cities Guidebook, we will release the call guidelines, a much more administrative and formal document setting the formal framework, containing, amongst others, the eligibility assessment and selection criteria. The call guidelines are going to be published on the NetZeroCities website, the mission portal, and the EU funding and tender portal in the section dedicated to cascading grants. Some dates to keep in mind. At the end of the month, on the 27th, we are going to hold an information session, virtual information session, dedicated to the approaches, the ambitions of the pilot activities. And right after, the week after, on the 4th of July, a session dedicated to criteria and the selection process. On the 5th of September, we'll be having a session very technical on how to apply. During the summer, if needed, if you have questions and you won't find answers in the FAQs that we are going to regularly publish, we'll be holding info Q&A sessions to help you deal with these applications. Something that I would like to say just right now before I pass on to Will, we are here for you. So do not hesitate to reach to us, because it's a common work, it's a common endeavor, and we are working on this together. Will, what's next?
Hopefully, there we go, change now, thank you. Hello everyone, great to be here, and so much excitement and ambition in the room. So just some of the key details. The call will open at 12 CET on Monday the 5th of September, so that's high noon. And you'll be able to access the application form through the portal and the system there, registering through the portal. The call deadline is 2 months later on Friday, the 4th of November at midnight, or a minute before, according to the slide. But just technical information, and the important bit is we will not be able to accept any proposals after this time, nor would you be able to make any amendments or changes to your proposals after that time. So when it's shut, it's shut. On that note, we would suggest that you have your own internal deadline to work to that's well before that date, because that always helps you with stress levels, and it helps us as well.
The review and selection process will be running November through January, and is going to consist of 3 stages. The first one, a very basic eligibility check. The second one is when the independent external reviewers will assess your proposals against assessment criteria. And the proposals reaching a minimum scoring threshold will go then to the third stage, which is the selection by a designated selection committee, which will pick the ones that will receive the funding. The decisions will be communicated not later than the 28th of February next year.
Okay, next slide. Thank you. So immediately following the selection process and decision communication to those cities that will be undertaking the Pilot Cities program, there will be a period of time for contract development, of iteration of the project plans and the proposals based upon either feedback, compliance-related things, or some of the more technical details that we'll need to follow through with. And all of that information then will be used as the basis of the grant agreement and your contracts with us. Simultaneously, we'll publish the call outcomes and the selected city pilots through the different NetZeroCities platforms, portal, website, and communication channels to be able to share what is happening, what we've selected, and what people can look forward to seeing develop over time.
So in short, within the next couple of weeks, the call documentation is going to be released. Then we are having the webinars. We'll be publishing the FAQs regularly, and will be at your disposal. Remember, on the 5th of September, high noon, we are opening the call. November the 4th, it's like Cinderella. 1 minute to midnight, and we're closing the call. And then the review, the contracting, and we'll start to work together. Thank you.
Thanks. And just to add to that, we are also in the information space over there, so please do come and find us and ask any questions. There's obviously certain information we can't share until the documentation is out there, but we'll try our best to answer all of your questions. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much to Anna and Will. Remember the 5th of September. I think we can all remember that one now. And with this, since I hear a lot of you whispering to each other already, it's now my pleasure to announce that we're going into a little break. For all the ones who haven't collected their badges yet, please make sure to find your way upstairs to collect your badge, because you'll need it in the afternoon. And other than that, I would also invite you in the break to maybe talk to at least one person you do not know yet. And I mean, it's a very easy crowd, because you can approach everyone and just ask, which city are you from? And then just see where the conversation develops. Have a great break, and see you here in half an hour.